So natural is not new to pet. We saw a presentation earlier today that said that that market is as big as $10 billion now. And because it's important to our customers, it's important to us. So part of that is being able to meet the natural claim, and with that means that your ingredients cannot be artificially preserved. So that led us down a pathway to learn more about this. You have three choices with a palatant. You can either artificially preserve it, you can do nothing, or you can choose a natural preservative system. But for that no artificial preservatives claim, that means all of your ingredients need to be not artificially preserved, which is why we started working on a solution for our palatant. So there's 4 advantages that we see to having a palatant that's using a natural preservative system. The first is, as we've been talking about, you get your desired claim. It supports the product concept that you're working with. The second is, you could choose a option of not preserving it, but then you put yourself in a situation where the ingredients have a much shorter shelf life. So although a no preservative system could get you to the claim that you want, it comes with complexity that a natural preservative system could help solve. The second part is, and every manufacturing environment is different, so it's difficult to say that it would be exactly the same, but we feel that our natural preservative system will allow you to handle it very similar to how you handle any artificially preserved palatants that you're using today. Another advantage to it is the flexibility of being able to store it in a bulk tanker or in a liquid tote. So as we started studying this, one of the things that we found that was really interesting is that there are lots of ways to preserve something naturally, but the product performance is very different. And so we set out to find a natural preservative system that inhibits yeast and mold growth that's as effective as artificial. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Sandau.
So we chose to employ a hurdle technology for our preservative system. What this is, it's been coined an important concept back in the early 2000s, where it's a combination of hurdles which secures the safety and stability of food, but very importantly preserves the organoleptic as well as the nutritional quality of food. So when we tested different hurdle technologies, we wanted to consider the combination that would be most effective against yeast and mold. So a hurdle technology could either be a single component, a combination would be then additive, or potentially synergistic. And when we think of a hurdle in this little dotted line, that could be a yeast or a mold defying or getting across those different barriers. And eventually you want to have a hurdle system or a barrier that's going to stop and inhibit that growth. So in order to do this, we did a series of benchtop studies. So in the palatant business, we have liquid and dries. We wanted to look in a liquid system. So we took a liquid palatant with an artificial preservative, which is the control in the gray, one that had no artificial preservative in black. Then we had 3 different versions of a natural preservative, A, B, and C. We are able to enumerate or count the number of yeast, the amount of yeast in a particular sample, so colony-forming units per gram. You'll see this is a logarithmic scale just because of the growth properties of this organism. And what we did is actually inoculate this liquid with a number of different organisms to see how these different solutions would hold up against a challenge type study. So the artificial preservative, no preservative, A and C all had detectable yeast at the time of inoculation, but surprisingly the one number or letter B, there was nothing detectable at the time of inoculation, indicating that this was a pretty robust system already. We looked then 30 days later to see what the yeast levels would be. Here, the artificial preservative, the counts were below the limit of detection, as were for B and C. You can see that the no preservative system, there was a huge outgrowth, 3 logs, and completely uncontrolled growth. And similarly, we saw that with a natural preservative A. In parallel, we also wanted to see how these natural preservatives would hold up against a mold challenge. Same samples, same setup, except we're looking at mold. We have at time 0, we see a very similar pattern where our natural preservative B was able to control, if not even inhibit or kill, the yeast at that time 0. 30 days out, again, we saw our no preservative system, a complete outgrowth of mold. Whereas in this situation, natural preservative A was able to inhibit mold. Another important point that I did not point out at this time is that we did carry this study out for an entire year. So we're only showing the data here up to 30 days, but at periodic intervals where we see levels below the limit of detection, those were maintained throughout time. We did stop the study, however, for the natural preservative A as well as the no preservative. So I just want to hold these two data points up to you side by side at the 30-day, where we did see a very interesting pattern here where the natural preservative A was able to control mold here on the right-hand side, but not yeast. So what's really important is that this is an illustration of the complexity of natural preservatives and how the data really pointed us in the direction of finding a very effective combination to control and inhibit yeast and mold in a liquid system. So in summary, there are advantages to using a natural preservative system, which Tim had talked about, being consistent with your brand and your labeling desires. But not all the natural preservatives have a similar performance. We have been able to show an efficacy study here where challenged with potential with inoculation, it is effective in inhibiting yeast and mold. And we'd be happy if you wanted to reach out with any of your Palatant solution needs. So with that, I'll take some questions. So the question is, does the preservative affect the taste profile from the pet's perspective? And I'll say yes, some do and some don't. And as palatability experts, we look at that very closely and come up with the right balance of taste and efficacy.